We're going to start in 2 minutes. People are still coming in. Do we see one? And then we're waiting for a couple of people to come in. Okay, I think we can begin. We have a critical mass. Good evening. This is Community Education Council 2's Admissions and Diversity Committee Meeting. My name is Craig Slutskin, and I'm the chair of the committee. And I'm joined by CEC2 member and committee member Allison Bowen. Allison, if you want to just raise your hand so people can hopefully see you. And we're also joined by the chair or the president of CEC2, Len Silverman. Len, you want to raise your hand? So thank you very much. We also are joined tonight by the superintendent, Kelly McGuire, who I think, I know he's in here somewhere. And we'll hear a little bit from him as well. Tonight, we have one item on the agenda, high school admissions and the question of geographic priority. Many families have children nearing the high school admissions process, whether their children are in 7th, 6th, or even 5th grade, and have varying levels of anxiety over the process. But whether your child is in 7th grade or 1st grade, this is an issue that will eventually affect all families in our district.
Jamila?
Sorry. If you can mute yourself, everybody should be muted, actually. You can do that. Allison, if you can just take a look to see if everyone's muted. Tonight, we're going to talk about the issue, and we're going to frame the issue so that everybody knows exactly what we're talking about when we talk about geographic priority. Then we're going to listen to you. We want to hear what the families of District 2 think about the topic. What do you want for your children? Remember, we're here to represent all of the families of District 2. This will likely lead to a resolution before CEC2 about this issue. The next meeting of CEC2 is Wednesday, January 17th. If you're on our mailing list, you'll get more information about the details. And if you're not, please email us at cec2@schools.nyc.gov, and we'll gladly add you. We also have our Chancellor's Town Hall on Tuesday evening, February 13th at MS 131 at 100 Hester Street. This happens once every 2-year CEC term, where the district can hear directly from the Chancellor, and we can ask him questions. And this is something we absolutely expect to bring up with Chancellor Banks. So what is geographic priority? Geographic priority means the granting of priority access to schools during the admissions process. We have this already in District 2 middle schools. So students who are residents within the District 2 boundaries or students in District 2 elementary schools get what's called geographic priority over students outside those boundaries for the middle schools. Currently, there's no such geographic priority for any District 2 high school or even any Manhattan school, meaning if you live next door to Baruch High School and you apply, all things being equal, lottery numbers, etc., your child would have no priority over someone who lives, let's say, all the way in Far Rockaway in Queens. And there's a massive inequity there. Other boroughs do, in fact, have borough priority, such as Queens. So Manhattan students fall on the back of the line for Queens high schools, but stay level with Queens students for Manhattan schools. To me, that's simply unfair and puts our kids at a massive disadvantage. Prior to 2020, many high schools in our District 2 did have actual District 2 priorities. So schools such as Eleanor Roosevelt, Baruch High School, Lab High School, Millennial High School, and the School of the Future High School all provided for geographic priority for admissions for students from District 2 middle schools, allowing specific seats set aside also for students eligible for free or reduced lunch. But 2020 came, and Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Richard Carranza decided to change it all. Carranza famously said, we should never waste a good crisis, as he took advantage of the COVID-19 crisis to massively alter admissions policies and take away geographic priority in Manhattan completely. And it hasn't come back. And the results were disastrous for D2. For fall 2021 admissions, about 2,600 D2 students applied. Only 48% of the students were offered their top 3 choices, 60% their top 5, 77% of the students were offered their top 10 choices, and 82% were offered their top 12 choices. So that means 18% did not get any of their top 12 choices. And as a reminder, you can put up to 12 choices. So imagine your child put 12 choices and didn't get anything and got placed at a school that they were not interested in whatsoever, didn't think it was a right fit. The percent offered to any high school choice, including specialized schools, was only 86%. The D2 results for fall 2021 high school admissions were the worst in all of New York City. Fall 2022 came along, admissions, 2,342 students applied, and the students were only marginally better. 51% of the students were offered their top 3 choices, 77 were offered their top 10 choices, and one of their top 10 choices, and 82% of the students were offered one of their top 12 choices. So the D2 results for fall 2022 high school admissions were in a 3-way tie for the worst in New York City, despite 250 less District 2 applicants for high schools. I also want to note that to me, what happened at Eleanor Roosevelt and Millennial, 2 schools in Manhattan, was particularly egregious. Eleanor Roosevelt was, well, ELRO, some people know it as, was created by parents because of a lack of quality choices on the Upper East Side. It was built so students wouldn't have to leave their communities to go to high school for that specific reason, and de Blasio and Carranza took that away. Millennial was built after 9/11 with federal funds to bring people back to downtown after that horrific tragedy. It was literally built so that families will want to live downtown and have a quality local option. But now in both cases, their whole purpose to be schools for their communities are gone. It was a slap in the face of the families who got the schools created and families who invest in their neighborhoods because of a promise that they'd have access to local schools. My personal opinion, no student should be forced to have long commutes to any school. If a child lives near the Battery and gets into the Bronx High School of Science and makes that choice of a long commute, that's on them, that's their choice, and good luck, that's fine, perfectly fine. But no student should be forced to go that route. An hour commute or more is wasteful. Our kids could be spending more time on extracurricular activities or studying or having a life or getting a job which may very well be needed, or even just sleeping. Having no guarantee of a local option also creates a situation where our kids may have 2 or 3 legs of a commute, which in this day of skyrocketing subway crime creates dangerous situations. And if we don't do something, more families will elect the suburbs, private, charter, or parochial schools. We should talk about district priority. We should talk about geographic priority. So within priority for District 2 schools for District 2 students, or leave it at Manhattan overall, or even more 6th through 12 schools that go from 6th grade to 12th grade. And then if you're in the middle school, the 6, 7, 8 portion, you're guaranteed to go into the high school. So 9, 10, 11, 12. We have School in the Future in Clinton in our district that provides a path from middle school to high school in the same building, with a proposal to do something similar at City Knoll and Hell's Kitchen. Do we push for more? So that's the background here, and we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear your opinions because we value your opinions, and then we'll go from there. So before we go to that, I'm going to ask our CEC2 president, Len Silverman, to say a few words. Thanks.
Thank you, Craig. Again, my name is Leonard Silverman. I'm the co-president of the president of the District 2 President's I'm the president of the District 2 Community Education Council. I've been co-president of the District 2 President's Council for the last 5 years. I'm no longer in that position. That's why I'm a little confused tonight. But I want to thank everyone for coming here. I especially want to thank Allison Bowen and Craig Slutskin for putting this together tonight. This is an issue that our council really cares about. This is an issue that we're going to see resolutions on. We're really looking forward to your input. We've had input, having served in the last 2 councils prior to this. This is something that people have very strong opinions of. As Craig talked about, unfortunately, usually you don't get those opinions until your child is reaching that part in the process where you're starting to think about applying to high school. I've been through this twice with 2 older children, so I can tell you this is something that will affect each and every one of you eventually. So as we sit here and we listen to you tonight, please tell us what your thoughts are. And also we'd like to work with you because if you want to affect a change, and the big difference, if I had to go back over the last number of years, and as Craig did a great job outlining the changes that have happened over the last couple of administrations, the big difference is in the old days, there was predictability. Certainly, you could tell based on your child's performance what your chances are and where you are going to end up with an element of predictability. That is no longer the case. It is certainly not the case like it used to be, and that's really causing. I think that's really what's leading to problems in terms of trying to plan things out. So, with that being said, also when you sit and you let us know what your thoughts are, we really need your help. We need your input. Reach out to your elected officials. Reach out to your communities, your school communities. Get people involved, because getting District 2 priority restored is really going to be very important in terms of maximizing your children's chances of ending up at their first choice of a school. So, I think what we want is we want to have choices. We want to make sure that we, as Craig pointed out, District 2, unfortunately, if you look at the numbers, we have not done well in terms of placements. So let's get District 2 priority back, and we look forward to hearing from you. So thank you.
Thanks, Len. Superintendent McGuire, I know you wanted to say a few words. I'm looking for you.
I'm here.
Okay.
No, thank you so much, Craig.
I'd like to, before you go on, I just want to note, I want to thank Superintendent McGuire for coming tonight. Superintendent McGuire is going to make a few welcome comments, but I want people to remember that Superintendent McGuire is an advocate here, but he's not the one who makes the call on high school admissions. That's the purview of the Office of the Enrollment and the high school superintendent. So he's here to hopefully be an advocate for us. I'm sure he will be. And I'm sure he'll say some words about that. So Superintendent McGuire, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I'm sorry that I can't join you either with my face on and this camera on tonight, but I did just want to share that I appreciate the Admissions and Diversity Committee for putting the forum together tonight. Appreciate the CEC for their advocacy for the district. I know that this is going to be a conversation that we'll be engaging in this spring, but I too am just here to listen to everybody tonight and to make sure that some of the things that we're sharing, I'd like to include in my report at the upcoming CEC meeting next week. And so I appreciate what you put together and look forward to a good conversation. Thanks.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, so we're going to start off the portion where we allow you to speak. I'm going to drop again. We put it in, but I'll put it again. I'll just sign up URL in the chat. We have a bunch of people, a lot of people on the call tonight, so I'm going to ask for everyone to speak just once. If we have time, we can allow second bites. I'm also going to limit it we're going to start off with 2 minutes per person and see how that goes. We might have to eliminate, bring it down to 90 seconds. We'll see how how time goes. We won't cut you off at exactly 2 minutes, but please finish your sentence and wrap up. It's a matter of respect for the other families who also wish to speak tonight. And if someone goes on and on after their time is up, I may just have to cut you off, unfortunately, but we're trying not to do that. It's perfectly also okay to use your 2 minutes. And it's also perfectly okay to simply state, I agree with a previous caller, and just leave it at that. That's okay also. The chat is open and we're going to keep it open, but we ask everyone to be respectful towards each other. We all have very strong opinions and many times they differ from each other, and that's okay. We just ask that everybody be respectful to each other. So the first speaker, tonight is going to be Lisa Marks. Is Lisa on yet? Lisa's not on yet. Let's try. The second speaker is Anthony's not on. I'm looking for Laura Stadler. I don't see a Laura on here. Elizabeth is not on here. Sandra O'Connor. So Sandra O'Connor, you will be the first speaker. And you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Very interested in, well, my children, I have 2 children in District 2, and I'm very interested in geographic priority for District 2. And that's my main concern tonight. I just feel that it would be really helpful with just the way that the admissions are going right now. I just feel like it would, I just feel like, for instance, I have a school that's very close to our home, and a lot of the students in our school are not getting into it as much as they had in the past. And it's just a neighborhood school. But not only that, just all of District 2. And so I just feel like it would be great to bring that back. I know that it was once there before, and I just feel like it would be great to bring it back.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next speaker is Motoko.
Sorry, did I
Motoko, you're welcome to CEC2. You should be able to speak.
hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I was going to speak what you summarized everything, Craig. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this time and everyone here joining this meeting. Because I really love the community of District 2. My daughters, my older one goes to Eastside Middle School, but she went to Chelsea Prep. She commuted within District 2. The community is really amazing. In our elementary school, we received over 100 asylum-seeking families, and the PTA and everybody together, we try to help what we can do, and also share the culture that they have. And I just really love District 2 community. That said, I really think the current high school policy is really just so unfair and so disadvantageous for us. For many of District 2's families, or actually all of us. It's really because every borough except for Manhattan has the geographic priorities back, but Manhattan just does not. And really the DOE's data really show that the number of 8th graders who applies to high school in District 2 has decreased over a couple years, 10%, like 300 kids every year in just one grade. We are losing a lot of families. I've seen a lot of friends leaving the city. Leaving to the private school, okay, maybe they are still paying the tax to the city, so maybe that's still kind of okay. But leaving the city, we are losing tax-paying families, and we really just can't afford that. And for us to not be able to go to a school that is close by with this community is just so crazy. So I'm thinking, how about, let's say if you want the
You can wrap up your remarks.
Okay, so how about like 50% of District School 2 have the priority to District 2 families, or some kind of uh, uh, priorities should be back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The next speaker would be Lee. Let's see.
Hi. Hello.
Are you Lee Pasquale?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Mhm.
great.
So I mean, my question is really based on what Mr. Leonard Silverman said in the chat. The first question being, if there was a belief that the D2 priority was not equitable or fair, what is this belief based on, firstly? And secondly, how is making it fair to students from other districts equal making it unfair for students from District 2? It doesn't really equate to me. My final question, related to that is, the data is clear, so why are we continuing to penalize District 2 students? Thank you.
Thank you. It's good questions. Next speaker is Casey Cohn. Casey, you should be able to speak.
Yep. So I don't really have that much to add to what other people are saying. I just, I think that it's good for Manhattan students to have, be able to get into Manhattan schools. I heard anecdotally, I can't confirm whether this is, true or not, about a class at Wagner where only 5 kids were actually in the class on the day of the tax, which I think is the Catholic school test, which is just an indication of, how panicked families are, about having a good choice for high school and how this really is impacting, kids. I mean, that's like, if that's really what the numbers were, that's like 90% of kids in this class were, applying to Catholic school. And that doesn't even get into who was applying to independent schools or who's, looking at schools in different suburbs. So anyway, I thank you guys for, holding this forum and for advocating for, more equality in the process, I guess, for in Manhattan.
Thank you, Casey. I don't see Christina in McLeod. So we'll go to Toby Lawson.
Hi, I'm a parent of 2 boys in District 2. They were born there and they've lived there for their entire lives. My view is that children should be able to attend high school in their neighborhood if one is available. And previously, District 2 had its own priority, but this was removed. And that puts the children that live in District 2 at a disadvantage compared to all the other neighborhoods that have retained zoning priority. My eldest child just went through this. He just went through the high school admission process and was directly impacted by this change. He received his 11th choice from 12 and was unable to attend a nearby school. Now has a commute of around an hour. So I'm asking the board to reevaluate this change before my youngest child goes through the high school process and to give local children the same zone priorities that other districts have.
Thank you. The next speaker, thank you, appreciate your comments. The next speaker that I see in the box is Helen Go.
Thank you so much. I agree with all the other parents have said. Just want to add that high school is already a very stressful process, and admission itself is very stressful for not only the kids, but also the parents, the entire family. Bring back priority for District 2 students will help ease that stress. So thank you.
Thank you. The next person, I don't see Robin on here. Jason Sobel is not on there. Roni Israel Leader.
Hi, sir. Thank you. I have nothing to add. I really agree with everybody who spoke until now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person that's signing up is M. I don't know who M is. If you want to re-sign up with your full names or the name that matches the name of the participant list, that would be helpful to us. Sam Lowe. Sam, you're next.
Hi. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I think everyone ahead of me had pretty much explained the situation pretty clearly. I still can't fathom how it was deemed more fair to take away geographic priority from D2 students. I mean, like, how did that even come about? And what is it because the quality of schools in the other boroughs and the amount of higher performing schools is so few and so low that everyone feels the need to try to apply into D2 schools? It doesn't make any sense. And what does, writing our elected officials at this point, are they actually going to do anything, or are they just sticking to whatever the previous administration had done in the name of some kind of equity?
Greg,
Do you wanna talk about this?
yeah, sure. I think part of the issue is you're seeing certainly in the city, there's a real push for, and I'll put the quotation marks of equity, and that is really focused on the school system. And there has been certainly over the last number of years, which was certainly magnified by things that are happening in our general society with the George Floyd situations, all of those things that have come up over the past number of years, a real push towards equity. And there's a sense, I think, and there's always been a sense that in District 2, if you look at the parts of Manhattan, whether our district runs from the Upper East Side all the way through, and there's a carve out around Chinatown, but it runs through some of the most expensive real estate in Manhattan. We have parents that are pretty well off, and there's a sense that our schools, based on the fact that we have a very high performing district in terms of scores, in terms of schools that people want to go to, that we get an unfair share of resources. And if you go to other districts, for example, I've attended meetings at districts, for example, on the Upper West Side, they feel they don't have the same choices that we did on the East Side in terms of high schools and desirable schools to attend. So I think there's been that push under the heading of equity to try to make things fair. And in terms of the decision to remove District 2 priority, that was not made with any consent or consultation with District 2 parents. It was a unilateral decision that was made at the DOE level. And unfortunately, when you have things like District 2 priority, once you lose them, they're very hard to get back. And I think that's one of the things I want to hear from more parents. But at the end of this discussion, we can talk about like what we can do as parents, because we're not in this alone. And what you can do to kind of maximize your efforts to work around building communities, to build that momentum, to really organize, to reach out to elected officials. Because as I said, if you're a parent of a third grader right now, you're not thinking about high school. You're probably not. But we really need to let those parents know that this is an issue that's going to affect them. It may not happen this year, next year, but it's a very important issue, and it will eventually come to roost. So we need to get those parents involved, not just the parents whose kids are going next year to applying to high school, but going back, to the sixth graders, the fifth graders, even the fourth grade parents, because this is an issue that really it's so critical. We want our parents to have those choices, and again, it's about what do you do, and I'll mention this at the end, but what can we do? As a CEC, we can pass resolutions. But it's also what happens with those resolutions. How do we support those resolutions? How do we make sure that elected officials hear what we're saying? And it's tough in this environment because, again, I think there is a perception that District 2 is very well off. We're much better off than a lot of districts. And a lot of that, it not only has to do with resources, it just happens to be the fact that it's a very well-run district, and we have a good superintendent. We've had good superintendents. We're very fortunate. We have good schools, and there's a sense that it's not fair, and unfortunately, that's what we're battling against.
Could I have a quick follow-up question regarding the resourcing issue that you mentioned with regard to why they feel that District 2 is inequitable in comparison to other districts? My impression, I could be wrong, but my impression was that the most well-performing schools are the most underfunded. They get the least amount of funding, something like $17,000 per student, whereas the worst performing schools get something like $30,000 or $40,000 per student. How is that inequitable resourcing?
Well,
is that the whole point?
Well, what you're really getting into is, I really don't want to bring it too much. I don't want to go too far afield, but there's the question of Title I resources. So, for example, students who, based on family income, a school might get a certain amount of resources, but you have to admit, and I think we can admit, that there are certain schools in our district, whether they're middle schools, high schools, based on the Parents Association, they're able to raise private funding. I'll call it private funding or non-public funding. So you look at some of the schools in District 2, and these numbers. There was something that was passed a number of years ago that required this information to be published, and there was a concern that when they published it, it was going to be used to kind of take money away from schools that raised a lot of money. But we have schools in the district, that I don't know what the numbers are more recently, but certainly before COVID, some schools raising $1 million a year. I'm talking, when an elementary school raises $1 million a year, and you have schools in other districts like in the Bronx or in Queens, Brooklyn, that are struggling just to get parents involved and parents committed and can't raise money. It's easy to make that argument that we are very well off and we're not really sharing those resources. So I think that's one of the issues. So I understand when you're talking about funding. If you do look at the numbers, yes, certain schools get a large amount of public money, I guess, or Title I funds, we would call them. But in reality, the difference is often made up by the fact that you have very well-funded parents associations and communities at those schools that are able to raise resources.
Yeah, that sounds like the key.
And if you can
is
wrap
that
it, I want to let other people.
Yeah, sorry, Craig. Sam, I'll be happy to talk to you towards the end. But.
Thank you. A couple of people that signed in, but we had missed earlier. We'll start off with Jason Sobel. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing. You should be able to speak.
Yeah, hi, this is Jason Sobel. Thanks for someone sending me the passcode to get in. I'm sorry I'm a minute late. And thank you everybody for your opening remarks and for giving the data. I guess my question examines, originally the purpose that the removal of priority were put in place, and whether that was done for a purpose that was improper, and other districts have gone away from it. District 2 remains. And if you go back to Mayor de Blasio, Richard Carenz's statements around the time that this priority was removed, there was a stated purpose that there was consciously to promote integration, racial integration. And so I think there's a question of whether that can still be maintained or it's invalid, for that reason. And I don't know if anyone's examined that, but it seems like it's a valid question.
And again, the issues of equity are tied up in those racial issues like you've talked about in terms of diversity. And there's no question that if you expand catchments beyond District 2, you're going to get greater racial diversity. I don't think there's any question that's not, there's no mystery here. The questions you bring up is that specifically fair? Is it fair that District 2 students, because we also, I would like to point out, we do have minority students in this district that were disenfranchised through this process. And when you remove District 2 priority, you're affecting them as well. So I think that's one of the messages that gets lost very often in this debate, because it's an unfairness that's applied throughout the district, whether it's not only, it applies to all the groups in our district. So, but that's again, that, you're talking about, these are the debates that we're having generally in the city. How do you balance these issues? How do you create diversity and at the same time, give that advantage or benefit to District 2 parents? So, and it's not always easy to come up with that solution, but I do support District 2 priority 100%. And it's something that I think we really have to work for.
The next speaker is going to be Susan Sonstein, which I think is Susan, and you should
Yeah, Susan. Hi, and I'm also Susan Gottlieb. I signed up like I've been on this for a long time. This in 2021, I got a petition going. I only got 70 signatures because I'm not really an activist, but I got 70 signatures for a zone school for our area, for the Upper East Side. And I recently sent that to Mr. Banks, along with a letter that I wrote with Motoko. Motoko wrote a letter stating all the great statistics that Craig stated earlier, how disadvantaged we are. And so I sent him the letter, and I spoke to Travonda Kelly at Mr. Banks' office, and she said that they are actively working on it because they know that this is really not a fair thing that is going on. It's just not fair. The statistics alone say it. So I'm going to follow up with that next week. I don't know. I'm wondering if people if I want emails, this desire to have, we have to decide what we want. I would like a zone school, or I would like us to have all the Upper East Side people who live in certain areas to have priority for a certain school. So our kids are sure to go to a school that they can walk to. That's what I would like. But I'm just, that's one thing I think we could all do if we get together, decide what we want, and send, emails to Mr. Banks. I think he'd be responsive. So,
well, Susan, I just want to say it's kind of reinventing the wheel, because I can tell you that there was a significant amount of work by people like Jennifer Greenblatt, who worked really hard and tirelessly to get us, for example, Eleanor Roosevelt High School, to get that kind of a school in our district. And we had that. It's not a question of starting from scratch. It's a question of, to a large extent, restoring what we once had in District 2. And that's something that
that's
really
only 125 kids per year. That's only
True.
120.
True.
But we want us, what about like that old Julia Richmond High School? That's a big, beautiful building on, 2nd Avenue. I think I never understood, why can't that be a zone school for us? Why can't our kids go to that school? Or even the one on the FDR up by 116th by Costco. Like, why? Like, would that be possible to make that one of our school for our children, like they do in Queens?
Yeah, no, and Queens does have some of, not all of Queens, but some of Queens has actual zone schools. I don't think it's all neighborhoods, but there are neighborhoods that do have the old those of us that grew up in New York went to zone schools or had zone schools. They have a few of those in Queens still. So
my question, I guess, is what to do next. If what the parents can do next is my
okay. We'll talk about that. I just want to let other people speak. The next person is, but thank you for your comments, and they're very helpful.
Okay.
Teresa Hsu. You should be able to speak now. Teresa? Teresa, we'll just one more time. Okay. So we're going to go to Fatima Gomez. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Craig, Teresa wrote in the chat that her mic's not working.
Mic's not working. Okay, well, if you can get it to work, let us know.
Or if you want to call in, Teresa, as well.
Fatima, okay, we can see if we can go to Tony Wong.
Yep, I'm here. Yep.
Hi, Tony.
All right. Thank you for having us speak. What at the beginning you bring out all the good points and reflected all what we're thinking already. I mean, but keep in mind, like school, it's only part of the education. There's other component like family. At home, we pushes them to work, do their homework and things like that, right? And there's the friends and family part, whereas you're in the neighborhood hanging out and then and doing things, right? That's how we all grow up. So that should be a big part of growing up in high school. And if they're gonna have to travel an hour here, an hour back, out of a borough, you literally take that away from them to have a healthy, balanced school life. I think that's part of it. It is important. That's as far as the equity portion, I don't see how that's fair to other, to us and to people who are in district school. I mean personally, I don't think the answer is to having us travel outside, or even for having them traveling to District 2 to go to our school. Because again, I believe in friends, family, how in their neighborhood, they should be hanging out with people where they live, right? Or not spending the time to travel, and instead maybe do homework or play baseball or whatnot, right? So that's by doing that, I just don't think that's going to be constructive. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all start with parents. Yes, District 2 have they'll do to raise money and things like that, but it's about parent involvement, right? The reason why we are raising this, doing our kids are doing better, is because quite honestly, we are there to tell them to do their homework, get their work done, check their work. If they expect, if people expect them to send their kids to District 2, and all of a sudden they'll be smart, they'll be a genius, and they will be mistaken. To me, that's it's not about having them travel to different district. It's about making their school better by starting to have more parent involvement, and then it's not doesn't necessarily have to be money, and even for the school district to spend more money in those schools, pay attention to more like I suppose after school tutoring program and things like that. And that's be more, to me, that would be more constructive. As far as, I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens. I go to middle school here, high school here, and work my way up. I mean, that's the neighborhood. It's very important. I think just for people traveling back and forth, we lose a lot of that, and I don't think that's a right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Teresa, we're going to try. Appreciate your comments, Tony. Teresa, we're going to try again. Are you sure?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you perfectly. I'm glad
Oh, great.
you do that.
So I
Welcome.
wanted to speak. I've been in District 2 for all of my children for over 10 years. I have four children that have come through the system here. And one of my girls, who's currently in 10th grade, was not able to get into a local school off of any of her 12 list. We were lucky enough that she was able to get it to a specialized high school, but that issue that you discuss, she travels an hour now. So she has a much longer day, which doesn't leave as much room for other activities for her. And what I have also noticed compared to my other children, she doesn't have any friends in the neighborhood. When you have a local community school, the children can get together with their classmates, their friends, and share that downtime and talk about school and not spend 2 hours of their day commuting when they've had a long day already with 8 hours of school and 2 hours of homework. So I'd very much like to see that another district priority comes back for our children. I've long been an advocate of public schooling, but it's really hard for me to speak to that now. And I've seen a lot of families leave, families that would otherwise participate in PTAs and donating to the school, have left the school districts gone to private schools, left New York City. Multiple families leave New York City. Multiple families speak to me about leaving New York City that have younger kids because they see this problem coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments and thank you. I'm glad we were able to get you with the microphone working. So good to hear from you. The next speaker is gonna be Howie Glassman.
Hi. Thanks so much for allowing me to just chime in real quick. Just some real quick context. I have a daughter. She's currently in 10th grade. She went through this process 2 years ago. We're District 2 residents. I myself grew up here, went to my zoned high school in Queens. So my daughter was put down her 12 choices, got none of them, was admitted to an underperforming school. We had to opt to send her to parochial school. So it's definitely a passion issue for me. My son's currently in 7th grade in District 2. So, we're, anxious about the process that we're going to deal with next year. So I just had a real quick question. I think one of the other issues that comes up with District 2 is the diversity admissions numbers that are set by schools. And I just wanted to have a little bit of understanding because I think that further the diversity admissions is for people that like families that are eligible, I think, for free or reduced lunch. I'm not sure what the exact definition is.
Yeah.
So according to the New York State Education Department for District 2, the 56% of the families in our district are within that, are defined by that, within that category. But some of the high schools in our district have much higher percentages. Baruch 66%, the lab school 75%, the I school 66%. So I think, while I'm passionate about this issue, that we're talking about, and I think that for the most part, people on this call are in agreement about that. It seems like these schools set these numbers based on their own arbitrary decisions about their viewpoints. Yeah. And I don't know who is the ultimate person that sort of approves these decisions because it affects our kids' abilities to get into these schools even more so, because it sounds like the number of families that would be eligible is further constrained because these schools set such high DIA numbers.
Yeah, and Len can chime in, but the school set the numbers. I think enrollment probably has to approve it, but I don't know that that's really more than a rubber stamp. But I don't know.
Boy.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say, thank you, Mr. Glassman, because you brought up a very interesting issue. What we saw in District 2 is you had principals that were really driving the change in terms of changing the rubrics at their high schools to include, for example, students, disadvantaged students, to increase the numbers, from 25% to 50%, because there was really no other way to tweak that to try to increase diversity. And that's one of the ways that you can try to do that without setting a quota or doing it based on racial preferences. You can try to do it economically. So what you're seeing is, yes, the numbers are incredibly high when you have schools that are like 78, taking reduced lunch students with 78%. That's going to already preclude a good portion of the people that live in many of the neighborhoods throughout District 2. So, but that's being driven at the school level by principals with the tacit, I don't think this is, I'm saying anything controversial, with the tacit blessing of the DOE. And that's where that's coming from. But that's a change that, again, unfortunately, all of a sudden, we were seeing this years ago. You look at a school like Elro, and it'll go from, let's say, 25% reduced lunch to 50%, or Baruch, where my oldest son went, to even higher. So, and parents have little control over those numbers and those decisions.
So just to be clear, that's not that decision is between the principals and the DOE. It's not controlled by the district at all.
I will let Kelly McGuire, if he wants to answer that specifically. My understanding, and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, is that really that's being driven at the school level. The principals are either suggesting this or proposing this, and I don't know whether it's been ratified at the administrative level by the district or the DOE, but it's coming certainly from the school itself.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I feel like the number should be commensurate with what the rate is in the district. It should be higher than that. That's
But again, you're getting into that again. That's the whole
Yeah.
issue of, is that fair?
right. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. The next person will be Sital. You should be unmuted.
Yes. Hi, it's Cethal Bafsar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just a real quick comment. I think Mr. Silverman mentioned earlier about the fundraising that occurs throughout District 2 and the vast amounts of money that can be raised. As a parent of a child in middle school and in elementary school in District 2, those fundraising is tied to the effect it has on your community. It's an investment in our community. And when you have a school that all the kids in your community or most of the kids in your community go to. So, to say that, a lot of that would be lost. I know that if my son ends up going to a high school that's an hour away, I'm not going to have that same connection to that community. And therefore, whatever funding or whatever resources I can put to that school are just not going to be there because it's not my community, if that makes sense. And I know that's a sentiment that many of us share, that loss of community, as many people spoke to earlier, is gone. And also the investment that comes with it will also be gone, which doesn't help anybody in any district. So I just hope that whoever on this chat or whoever has the voice and can raise these issues to the powers that may be, really see that it's the beginning of eroding the investment in your own community. And that's a really, really sad and heartbreaking sort of byproduct of this decision that was made. So that's all I wanted to say. And thank you.
And Sital, we're seeing that already at a PTA level. I can tell you, having
absolutely
been co-president of District 2 President Council for 5 years, I can tell you that when we talk to PTA presidents that I've known at schools that I served as PTA president, it's not the same because, again, you're not getting that same level of parent involvement, unfortunately.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be just a downward spiral for all the schools, regardless of the district. So, but thank you.
Thank you. So the next speaker is going to be Tamara Reed. Let me find you. Okay. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, Craig. Can you hear me?
Hi. We can hear you fine. Welcome.
Okay. Sorry, I'm in transit, so it's a little noisy. I'm happy to come to this meeting. I don't know as much about the high school priority, the history of taking away the priority in the district, in the borough. I know that it's tied to equity. I understand that in the middle school admissions process. Very happy with the changes there in the lottery there. I am for zoned schools, at least a zoned school, if not two, for our students. I think every borough, every district should have a zone school for high school. I think it's a fabulous idea to have more 6th through 12th grade programs. I know we have Clinton, we have ICE, we have School of the Future. 2 of them are citywide, I believe. But I also believe in not hoarding all of the beautiful resources that we have in District 2. And that's been an issue for a long time. We have amazing schools and we have amazing students all over New York City, in every borough, that have the right to go to those schools. And it shouldn't be dependent upon your zip code. And I think that just please try to be cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of us versus them here tonight. I've heard it several times. Your kids coming into a D2 school isn't going to make them smart all of a sudden. I mean, come on. That's really, really, really brutal kind of rhetoric right there. Any student coming into District 2 is going to be a wonderful addition to our community. And I believe that community is what you make it. And I don't live in District 2 anymore. I give to my son's school. I have a home district. I have community here in my neighborhood. People have community in their church. People have community at work. So the idea that you're only going to fund the community where your student goes to school if it's in your neighborhood is ridiculous. And just to end with the fact that lots of kids commute, my kid is included in that. He's a student with disabilities. He's been commuting since he was 3 years old. I took him until he was 12. Now he commutes borough to borough every single day. And it's just a choice that we have to make. You know, it's something that we have to do. So to tell me that high school students should be able to walk to school, and if not, they're so disadvantaged. I don't think saying any District 2 student is disadvantaged is correct in this situation. I think that we're very advantaged and we need to share some of that wealth. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Mara. The next speaker is going to be Lisa Marks. And Lisa, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you to District 2 CEC for hosting this town hall. And I agree with what a lot of speakers said tonight. I'm sorry I might have missed a few speakers, so I'm not sure if I heard all the stats. But, you know, what really shocked me was that District 2 has 13% of students applying for high school that go unmatched. 13% of District 2 students. That's the highest out of all the districts. Other districts have only 1 or 2% of students unmatched. We have 13% of our students unmatched. That's hundreds of students who don't get any of their 12 choices, not one of 12. And they can be placed at any random school that they have no connection to and know nothing about and no community with. And they have to be forced to travel up to 2 hours a day. So unlike the last speaker whose child goes to Clinton, one of the most coveted schools in District 2, you know, all parents want to be able to send their child to a local, good zone school. They don't want their kid to commute halfway across the city on unsafe subways. They want their kid to go get a good education. And that's whether they're in the Bronx, the Queens, Brooklyn, wherever they may be. They want their child to just go to their local close zone school to have a community, as Teresa said. I agree fully with that. And the last speaker who also noted that, you know, you're costing your community when you break up communities like this. I know so many families that have already left the system and they leave after elementary school because of the stress of the unknown lottery of middle school and especially high school. So I don't know how many more friends I have to lose or my kids have to lose because they're all going to the suburbs. I've lost some to Westchester, New Jersey. We've lost families to private schools like Basis and other private schools, Dalton, across the city. You know, and this is just going to continue. The enrollment numbers show that District 2 is hemorrhaging students, and this is the reason. I mean, it cannot be more clear. Everyone deserves a good school that's local to them. So instead of just
including
having
comments.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So last thing. So instead of, you know, making it a Hunger Games situation where there's only a few and we're just utilizing the D2 pool of schools, let's do the real work, the hard work to expand and make more better schools in all the districts. I'm a teacher. I grew up in District 2. I went to all public schools throughout my career. I work for the DOE. And I just think that the kids out there can do it, but we have to be leaders and expand more better schools through all districts. Thank you.
Yes, but by the way, I just want to, could we just make sure, and I just noticed the last speaker did this, let's try not to divulge any personal information or make this about specific responses to prior speakers. Let's try to avoid that if we can. If no one should be forced to divulge, if you're welcome to do it if you want, but if there's a question of where your child goes to school, I think that really shouldn't. I understand the arguments, but let's try not to really make them. And you can make them in different ways without trying to call people out on this in this particular forum. But I understand your comments. I'm just. But if all future speakers could just refrain from calling or mentioning specifics involving where speakers send their kids to school, I think it's better.
Thank you. And thank you, Len. That's very helpful. The next speaker is Sarah Vanderbroek. Sarah, you should be able to speak.
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for your hard work on this important issue. My question is, has the Chancellor released any public comments regarding this issue in particular? Maybe Lynn would have some information regarding that.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Go on, Craig. No, Craig, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't said it. We brought this, or the previous CEC, the previous council had what, Len, 4 resolutions about this issue? 5?
Yeah, this is not the first time this has come up.
Right.
And there really hasn't been any response. This particular administration is very good at listening. Whether or not they're actively responding is a whole other issue that we can debate. But the difference between this and the last one is the last one really wouldn't even pretend to listen. Certainly, I think there's been more engagement now, but I haven't seen any statements, any responses, anything directly addressing this particular issue. What I will say one thing there, just to add, there is a sense, and I do think it's important to get this out there, that in terms of District 2, in terms of the numbers, that we do send a higher percentage of students to specialized high schools. And they're trying to, that's one of the arguments that the Adams administration has used to say, well, your numbers might not be as good as the other districts, but you do send a higher percentage of students, or a relatively higher percentage of students than some other districts, to specialized high schools. That's one counter argument that has been raised, which I would just throw out there. So that's one thing that I have heard some sort of statement on.
Thank you. Thanks, Len, for the help. The next speaker, and I put the speaker list in the speaker sign up in the chat. We're going to close that up in a few minutes. So if you'd like to speak and haven't spoken already, please sign up. The next speaker is, and then we'll have some concluding remarks. I know there are some questions in the chat. The next speaker is Eric Sterling. Eric, you should be able to speak now.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening. So I just wanted to hit on what a couple of people have alluded to earlier about this concept of the urban doom loop. And I think we all make huge sacrifices to raise our families here in District 2, and to not have the opportunity to send our children to a school in district basically incentivizes many families to leave New York. And, as multiple people have said, people are leaving. It's not going to necessarily impact the kids of, the next 1 to 2 years, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road, this district will materially erode. And I just don't understand why it's required, why there's only 100 people on here tonight, and there aren't more people advocating to go back to the way things were. We have to provide opportunities for families that live in this district to simply send their kids to school in the district. It's that simple. That's really the only point I had to make. And, I appreciate the time. And I'm just a frustrated parent with a 7th grader, a 5th grader, and a kindergartner. And to just see what we're looking at for the foreseeable future, it's disheartening. It's just absolutely disheartening to know that, I can't, ultimately have a simple opportunity to send my kid to public school. I was raised in Staten Island. I went to public school in Staten Island, and it boggles the mind that we have these challenges here in this district. So thanks for the opportunity. Allow me to get up on my soapbox.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. I know there was a question about whether more D2 students have been going to specialized schools since priority was taken away. I don't have the stats, but it's hard to say if the answer is yes or no. It's hard to say if it's specific because of priority, because there are a lot of other things that have changed in terms of academic screens were almost eliminated, then kind of brought back, but sort of halfway. So there's a lot. It's hard to say one is the specific cause of the other. So, but I don't have the numbers. We can try to get that. The next speaker is Aparna Rao. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. It's pronounced Aparna Rao. Thank you. I'll be very brief. I agree with almost everybody here. The concerns are very real. I can just quickly share our story that my husband and I lived in this neighborhood that we live in District 2. When we were single, we stayed. We got after we got married, we are raising our children here. I have a third grader and a sixth grader. Both of my children have IEPs. Now, I believe all students are bright. I really believe that, no matter where they're from. The problem for me is perhaps my children will not go to a specialized high school. I don't want them applying to a Catholic high school. That's just not going to work for us. And it's very frustrating that we've lived here as long as we have, given all of our tax dollars. This is where our jobs are, our livelihoods. We have an incredible community that we live in. We don't want to give that up. And the idea that my children, who also have, both of them have diagnoses, and I'm happy to be honest about that, could commute an hour on their own is just unfathomable. And there are a lot of students that in this district who may have other needs. And I just would love for that to be a consideration here as well. I strongly believe in integration. I strongly believe in equity. Those are not my issues. My issue is we really deserve to have something local for our families and our children and our students, and certainly for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I think that's it for the speakers. I think that was it. So just to sort of wrap up, it sounds like for the most part, most people are in agreement that there should be certainly some priorities, whether it's district priority or a combination of district priority, zone schools. We're going to work through that, and we'll bring that up with the chancellor at the town hall next month. Several people have indicated and sent me private messages in the chat that they want to get together to sort of create letter writing campaigns. I think that's great. I'm going to put because I don't want to give out everybody's email address. We don't do that. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. And if you are interested in doing that, please email me, and I'll coordinate, let's say CECD2.net. And we'll get everybody together, but so this way, and please let me know if I can share your email address with sort of a task force that we can put together. But I think this was very helpful. Len, Allison, do you have any?
Yeah, I just want to say again, you're not in this alone. There's a sense when you're doing those applications, and you're all nervous and everything, and it's every person for themselves. But the reality is you're not in this alone. Our ability to affect change and to get people to listen is maximized by how many of us undertake to reach out to people, whether it's to your local representative, your local assembly member, your local city council person. Those are the type of people that you really need to contact, that you need to really reach out to. If you're involved, get involved at the Parents Association at your school. Put this on the radar. Put this on the agenda. Ask the Parents Association members at your school, what are you doing on this specific issue? What are you doing to reach out? What can we do? Again, when more than one person gets involved, you want to try to build that critical mass, and you want to build upon all of the work that's been done in the past. That we have resolutions. Again, we are here to work with you. We're here to represent the community. There's not 100, just so we're clear, there's not 100% agreement on these issues. So I'm aware that there are people who disagree with the positions that I hold, or Craig holds, or Allison, or maybe all three of us may not even agree on certain issues. But whatever your opinion is, it won't matter if you don't say anything. If you don't get involved, if you don't reach out, and it will come to roost. These issues, you are going to fill out that application at some point. I want every parent in this district to have as many options as possible. It shouldn't be a choice between. I was very fortunate with my middle son, for example. I had a choice between a specialized high school and a top performing district school. We chose the specialized high school, and that was a choice that we had. I would love every parent to have that type of a choice. I do believe what the speaker said. It's a fundamental right to an education, and I understand the perspectives that we want to make all schools great and build communities. There's the DOE would love to have, is trying to get parents maybe at schools that weren't fantastic in the past to get parents involved. But we have good schools in the district. We want to maximize those opportunities for district parents. That's what, as a member of the District 2 Community Education Council, I would like to see. I do believe there's a lot to be said for community, for having a local school, for having those options. So we will work with you. Get involved at whatever level you can do, whether it's reaching out, taking one phone call a week and just making a phone call and just reaching out to your local representative, showing up on a Friday night if they have a participatory budget thing, meeting, or whatever it is. Letting your principal of your school know this is how you feel, showing up at different meetings. But if you don't get involved, you won't have any say in the process. So we really need your input. You can make a difference. I think there's still a possibility, and I think we can effectuate change. And we've seen it incrementally. We were able to get more screen schools, for example, back. We're getting more screen middle schools back, for example. So it is possible for you to make a difference, but it takes hard work, and it takes a commitment, and it takes involvement. So if we can get that from our parents, at whatever level you're willing to give us, then we really can make a change. So thank you for everyone who even being here tonight. It was great. And I recognize that we weren't all in agreement, but just being here is great. Just even talking about the process, putting it on people's radar, and bring it to your friends. If they weren't able to make this meeting, let them know that this is an issue that's going to affect their child. So, and that's what you can do really to make things better. Allison, I didn't mean to rant for a while. Want to say anything? Or?
Before Allison speaks, if she wishes to, ultimately it's David Banks is the school's chancellor. He makes a decision. He sets the priorities of the city's education department. That being said, it's a combination of the division of enrollment and the Manhattan superintendent. But they all work there and report to the chancellor and the first deputy chancellor. So at the end of the day, the chancellor makes the final decision on this. In terms of the officials you should reach out to, you can certainly email the chancellor, you can email the deputy chancellor, and I would email your elected officials. They are here they should be advocating for us. They represent us. They represent our district. So whether it's Eric Botcher or Julie Menon, or any of the other city council people, Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, these folks are supposed to represent us, and we should reach out to them and have them apply pressure as well to the chancellor. But ultimately, it's the chancellor. It's ultimately like everything else. The chancellor is in charge of it. And in terms of what will sway David Banks needs to hear from people. The more people he hears from, the more persuaded he'll be.
And keep in mind that our elected officials are elected officials. There are always elections, and that's your opportunity to really let them know that these issues are important. And if you let them know it's important and that you're going to vote the way that you feel that they're representing you, then that can make a difference also. But Craig is right. To a large extent, it's going to feel like you're tilting against windmills because, and it's a hard system to run because there's so many different competing interests in the system. But we're here to fight for you, and we are doing everything that we can to get District 2 priority back.
Allison, anything you wanted to add? Or?
We need to put you on the spot.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who came tonight to speak on this issue. This issue is a top priority of this council and of this committee. And what I will remind everyone is that we are an advisory board, that the change does take place, like Craig said, at an administrative level. And your support coming out is what we take when we meet with the superintendent and the chancellor to relay the views of the parents. But we need you to relay them personally as well. So thank you all for coming tonight. And as Craig said, reach out to him if you want to get more involved, and we will connect and share that information.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.